This video displays a few aviation documents from the past that may be of interest to some viewers. I'm a member of a group of mostly retired seniors who had careers in aviation. Some others are younger members that are still involved in aviation. They enjoy listening to aviation stories from past generations. The seniors, likewise, enjoy the stories of present-day aviation. We each take turns sharing our aviation stories for the enjoyment of all. Recently, we had a discussion about our old aviation licenses and documents. Rather than a show and tell and physically share my over half-century of documents and risk damage, I decided to make a video that could be viewed by those with an interest. Enjoy. This PPL license dates back to about 7 years after World War II. Most other documents included in this video were issued shortly after. In 1953, I wanted to pursue a career in aviation. I joined the Royal Canadian Air Cadets and had my first aircraft ride in this RCAF C-45. At the time, each of us cadets were given an opportunity to fly it. Due to an ATC delay returning to land, I was fortunate and acquired 20 minutes at the controls. A year later in 1954, at age 17, I qualified for and received my private pilot's license through the RCAF Flying Scholarship Program. At the time, all civilian pilot licenses issued were contained in a leather folder. These leather folders were discontinued when the Department of Transport ran out in about the mid to late 1960s. The following are the documents within the leather cases. The night endorsement is located on the lower left. This PPL license number is located on the top right of this document. After training and receiving an upgraded pilot's license to a commercial, the DOT stamped "Cancelled" on the PPL in the event it gets into the wrong hands. After each medical, a license renewal certificate is issued. Next is the commercial pilot's license, located top left. Within 2 years, at age 19, in 1956, I started my CPL training. Within months, I had my first job bush flying in northern Canada. Winters were long and harsh. I lost all incentive to fly, so I headed south in the spring. Mid-center of this license are the endorsements. The circular block airspace stamp, which is on the top center, entitles a pilot to fly a VFR within the Canadian block airspace, which is between the altitudes 9,500 ASL, west of the 114th west parallel of longitude, up to 18,000 ASL, and 12,500 ASL, up to 18,000 feet east of the 114th parallel of longitude west. I required this endorsement to fly cloud seeding for hail suppression within the block airspace at or above 10,000. We were flying 86 Harvards back then. I took my flying instructor's rating, as seen on this certificate, to retain employment until a more habitable flying job came available. With the advent of computers, Transport Canada was updating the pilot's licenses format and issued this document to replace the original pilot license and the license number. One of the companies I flew for did major airframe and engine overhauls on light aircraft. Their quality and reasonable pricing was well known. This encouraged many aircraft from the northwestern USA to have their maintenance done in Calgary. After overhauls, the company wanted 2 hours of test flying before returning the aircraft to the owner. To fly a foreign registered aircraft, a pilot requires that country's pilot license. I applied for and received this U.S. license, which is an update duplicate of the original from the early 1960s. ATC was looking for controllers. I applied and months later was trained and transferred to my first posting at Calgary International Airport. I checked out and licensed in 1959. In 1970, I was transferred as Unit Chief to Whitehorse Tower, as seen in this rating document, then transferred back to Calgary Tower in 1974. I trained in a glider and received my glider's license in early 1970s. This document on the left is a reissue dated 1977. Computers just came out, and all licenses were reissued with a new format and license number as seen on the right. This is the medical certificate for most of the previous licenses. This is the reverse. The stamp indicates the medical was taken. This is the present and most recent document I received before my retirement that replaces all my previous licenses. Aviation licensing again went through another change. With the advent in technology with computers, Transport Canada decided to enclose all aviation licenses under one cover. I did notice that there were no endorsements indicated on this document. I expect a quick scan on the barcode on the license will bring up the license holder's history. This completes various licenses from the past. Now on to a couple ancient certificates. At the beginning of my aviation career, I acquired a radio license at the same time as my PPL, which entitled me to transmit and receive air-to-ground. Upon receiving my ATC license, I was requested to return my original radio license and was reissued with this certificate in 1959. As explained to me, it entitled me to transmit and receive both from air to ground and ground to air. This is the reverse. On retiring from ATC, I was reissued this radio certificate, which was back to only air to ground. Over the years, airport security increased. Those that were ground support, that worked on airside servicing aircraft, or aircrew walking to and from parked aircraft, were issued a particular colored pass and worn visible to all others on airside. These passes were universal and required on all airports in Canada. To operate a vehicle on airside, this permit is required. I had a part-time job driving a fuel truck gassing aircraft in the summer season and a snowplow during the winter months. During my 60-year career in aviation, the Department of Transport changed titles from DOT to Ministry of Transport, MOT, to Transport Canada, TC, to Navigation Canada, then abbreviated to NAV Canada, and then again abbreviated to NAVCAN. This concludes my show and tell on aviation documents from past generations. Behind each document are stories that I combined with my lifelong aviation experiences, and I wrote and published a book named it Tower Tales and is available on Amazon.ca. The name of my book and more detailed stories on each of these documents I have added in the description column below this video.